Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel for what is probably a rather arbitrary review, given the online vitriol in the response to the creation of this Snow White Disney remake. All of that drama kind of leads me to believe that people have already made up their minds as to whether or not they're going to see this, and if they are going to see it, they've already made up their minds as to whether or not they're going to like it. And look, as fun as it is to occasionally walk into a film experience expecting it to be bad, even maybe hoping that it's going to be bad so I can just tear it to shreds in a review, most of the time, I genuinely go into these types of movies hopeful, hoping to be proven wrong. With that said, it was really difficult for me when it comes to Snow White because this is a movie from almost an entire century ago. It came out in 1937. It was Disney's first feature-length animated film. I don't hold the original up as some sort of masterpiece, even though I do think it's very good. But when you have the star of the remake doing press junkets and talking trash about that original, I think that kind of speaks for itself. With that out of the way, I'm going to skip past the rest of the behind-the-scenes drama regarding Rachel Zegler, Gal Gadot, the dwarves. I left all of those things at the door when I walked into the auditorium to sit down and watch this movie. And I'm not saying that expectations don't play a role at all. I haven't liked many of these Disney live-action remakes. They feel relatively soulless to me, and most of them are cash-ins. I mean, look at The Lion King. It was frame for frame pretty much a spot-on remake of the original with none of the charm because for some reason they thought photorealistic animals would be able to emote better than animated ones. The only two that I think were even remotely decent are The Jungle Book and Cinderella. The rest, mediocre at best. And unfortunately, this movie sucks. It joins the ranks of all those others that I dislike so much. It's not without its redeeming qualities though. On this channel, we address the nuances. My criticisms go beyond a binary system in which everything is either a masterpiece or dog shit, which feels like that encapsulates film Twitter as a whole. X-Twitter, whatever, I still call it that. Are you ready for a big shocker? Because I think this is going to surprise a lot of people. The things that work best in this movie are the things that work best in the 1937 version. Who would have thought? But diving in a little bit deeper, I do think some of the things that I liked in this Snow White remake are things that other people disliked about it. I actually kind of liked the dwarves. I thought they were one of the more charming elements of the film. Obviously, the trailer got a lot of the online chatter going in a relatively negative direction, people saying they looked very Uncanny Valley-ish, nightmare fuel, and a couple of them do look very unsettling, but I'm just going to come out and say it. Dopey might be the most dynamic character in this entire film, which is both sad but also kind of charming because this is one of the few elements translated from that animated original that I think they largely kept true to the original. Look, Snow White is a fairy tale. We all want some moments of cheery fun, and they provided that in an otherwise vapid, self-serious interpretation of the story that seems unable to recognize what worked so well about the original. Another positive that I can provide is that the remixed songs from the original are good. I'm still not 100% sure if I'm fully on board with Rachel Zegler as this character. And it's not that I think she's a bad actress. I quite liked her in Spielberg's West Side Story, but she just feels slightly miscast as this character. I don't think she has the look and the feel of Snow White, and I know that's being kind of nitpicky, but when you're doing a remake of an animated classic, getting the casting right does matter. Setting all of that aside though, she does have an excellent set of vocal cords, that's for sure. This girl can sing, and I think she knocked it out of the park when it comes to the musical sequences in the film. Let's segue over now to Gal Gadot as the evil queen. Now, I'm not going to say that she's good or anything. I actually think she's quite bad. But she wasn't the straw that broke this movie's back or anything. She's giving a very cartoonish performance as a character who is a cartoon villain. So you kind of come to expect that. But I guess that might just be my way of saying that you don't really need acting chops for a role like this. Wow, that is kind of sad. I feel like most of the elements that I was listing off as positives are actually things that I was more mixed on. Even the things that I liked were things that I only kind of liked. The short of it is that the things that carry over and were well translated are the things that I liked in the Snow White remake. The things that I don't like mostly pertain to all the new stuff that is added in. Most notably, there are a bunch of new songs that aren't in the original, and they suck. They're largely forgettable. They're dull enough to put you to sleep. It's at least a good 20 minutes too long. There's another set of characters introduced in the film called the Bandits, and rumor has it they were originally going to replace the dwarves before the studio changed their minds. I have no idea if that's true or not, but these bandit characters drag the movie down big time. Every time they pop onto screen, it almost feels like a different movie, and it's instantly less charming, less interesting. They try to give these characters enough speaking lines to have a genuine role, yet they don't serve any purpose. And I think one of the biggest things that they changed in this version is that Snow White no longer falls in love with a prince. Instead, she falls in love with one of the bandits. And don't get me wrong, I'm fine with remixing the love interest character and, pivoting away from the prince who finds love at first sight. But this character is not an improvement. They didn't do anything to deepen the connection between the two characters, and you never feel like you truly get to know either of them. So how can they possibly fall in love with one another? It only begs the question of why they switched from a prince to this character in the first place. Why change what worked in the original if you're not going to do anything with it? At the end of the day, this is a fairy tale, so I'm fine with the love and the romance being a little superficial, but so much of the charm is sucked right out of this. I just can't think of a single reason that could be provided to show your kids this version of Snow White over the 1937 version. I know Rachel Zegler did a ton of press talking about how this version is much more empowering to women. This really doesn't change the character in a revolutionary way other than, not having a prince save her, which I've never had a problem with. Not everything has to have some sort of social agenda behind it. Sometimes we just want a feel-good movie that has a superficial love story at the center of it. Whatever you're looking for in this remake, I have a feeling it's going to disappoint you. I'm going to give Snow White 2 stars. I truly don't know how many more of these I have left in me, because even when they're not atrocious, they just feel so soulless. Lilo and Stitch comes out later this year, and while that one at least looks a little bit better and like it has its heart in the right place, I'm sure it will be inferior to the original, as they always are. So those are my thoughts on the movie. Be sure to let me know what you think of it down in the comments, and hit that like button as well as subscribe if you want more content like this. I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later.